Jim Harbaugh has given bland answers his entire time here, and Ward hasn't done much better. So some transparency has been awesome, would be awesome to see. And I'm comparing it to the Detroit Lions, where it's been only transparency from them in the hiring of their new coach, Dan Campbell. And they've done a great job with hiring new coaches. But Dan Campbell has gotten up on the podium and said, hey, I know it's been tough sledding here. You guys haven't done anything, good in the past however many years. And this fan base, deserves it. How awesome would it be for Ward Manuel or Jim Harbaugh to come up there and do something similar and say, hey, I know we haven't gotten to where we need to be. I get it. But we are doing things that we think are in place to put us, over the top and get us to that next level. That would be a breath of fresh air to hear one of them say, hey, I know we haven't done it, instead of trying to blow smoke and back each other up and say, well, I think we've done the right things and we've tried really hard and that type of stuff.
Well, and Justin, at that point, it is my, oh man, you can tell, there are things about being a former member of the, the mainstream media for Michigan football that absolutely drive me nuts. And one of them is when you tell the media, hey, this is not the time, we'll talk about another time, and then you never provide another opportunity. Right. Another one is when you say, you guys all criticize us for, if the results on the field, but you don't see a lot of things that are going on behind the scenes. And you say, well, what are some of the things going on behind the scenes? Well, that we're going to keep internally. That we don't need to go into all the different things. This is a moment where John Jansen, or if Ward Manuel made himself available, where you could say, Ward, tell me the things that you really like about Jim and where this program is going. Tell us the things behind the scenes that we don't get a chance to see, that you are confident in, that this is going to take Michigan to those goals of winning the Big Ten title and beating Ohio State. And often what you'll hear is well, those are a lot of things that we just decide, we're gonna kind of keep internally. We don't want to talk about it, or something like that. And it's what an utter bullshit response, because you say that there's all these things going on, but you won't tell anybody what those things are. And then the lack of transparency when it comes to no practices are open, no access to anything. I mean, so you can't see anything with your own eyes. And so everything that Michigan football does, you have to give them the benefit of the doubt and just say okay, well, because they said it's going to be good, it's going to be good. And what happens after, and I've seen this cycle now with 4 different coaching staffs at Michigan. And if you want to start basketball, then you add a couple more coaching staffs in there. Every time there's a new hire, the guy comes in, the first couple of years, you get the benefit of the doubt, trust the coaches. Brady Hoke was doing a far better strength and conditioning than Rich Rodriguez, and the way that he interacts with the players is far better. And then Jim Harbaugh comes in, he does a better job. And the players always get asked about that, the comparisons. Well, they do this differently. Everybody gives them the benefit of the doubt. Well, the benefit of the doubt only lasts for a certain amount of time. For, I would say, most fans, certainly the media, who have any level of healthy skepticism, healthy criticism, healthy cynicism, so we're well past that point. When I read someone on social media who says, well, a couple weeks ago or the last couple podcasts, we talked a lot about the coaching staff that he brought in and whether or not we feel this is a great coaching staff. And, I posted on social media and someone's well, why don't you just trust Jim Harbaugh? He's a lot smarter than you. And if he thinks this is the right staff, then it's the right staff. Get behind him. And it's no, I'm sorry, but no. He has had 6 years to put the right coaching staff together. He's had 6 years to build a championship team. Why in year 7, when he's blowing up his staff and putting all these different pieces in, should I just all of a sudden give him the benefit of the doubt again? It doesn't work that way. And it especially doesn't work that way when you don't provide any solid answers whatsoever from a coaching standpoint, from an athletic director standpoint.
Yeah, I think that's where it's just tough as the, from the fans' perspective to sit here and listen to what you're saying. It's the Groundhog Day. You're giving us the same BS over and over that we've heard for a long time. And so, what changes that with a new staff, that Jim Harbaugh has now now hired? What changes that these exact, there's a lot of new things that they could talk about, right? There are a lot of new things he could say. He could come out and say, yes, Jim is actually, he's realized that he needs to change the culture. He needs more fire. They didn't have it last year. You could go into detail now and say, this, and this happened in 2020. It was pretty eye-opening as to what was going on, because the pandemic went on, and it really opened our eyes in terms of trying to get these kids into a right mental headspace. And then I realized that they weren't, and we didn't have the right culture in place. And here are the things that Jim Harbaugh is doing to address that, because he's made a lot of changes, right? So there's a lot that he could have touched on and said, hey, I know that things haven't gone well. I still think Jim is right for the job, and here's why. It's because he's going younger with his staff. It's because he's changing the culture. It's because he's taking accountability, and now he's the quarterback's coach, and he's going to be more involved in this stuff instead of being a CEO guy. Ward could have ran down a list of things, and instead, I agree with you. He came out with the coach speak, with the teleprompter speak, and in an internal podcast. And so it just comes off to us and the fans as, well, I don't believe it, because you're not, how are you convincing me? Because it's just it's the same shit that you've been saying for a long time now.
Yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. I don't like it. I don't care for it. It's one of the reasons that it's something that, as a Michigan alum, as a Michigan fan, and as someone who has, seen how the sausage is made, it's really disheartening. Again, you're looking at an off season where you're trying to get your fan base, who is fractured, to believe, to buy in, to say, like, okay, especially if they start selling tickets. Now, maybe there's a 1-year bump of selling tickets just because everybody's so desperate to get back to their tailgating and get back to the big house. I think you could see that. But if it's a poor football season, I think you could see a massive number of people, not attend games, cancel tickets, just not be as engaged with Michigan football. And so here's this offseason, this critical offseason for Michigan football. They're coming off a 2-4 campaign, the worst record of the Jim Harbaugh era, certainly, and right up there with if you were to project over the course of the season, you're talking about 4-8. That's a Rich Rodriguez-esque, failure. And so you've got to get this program excited, and giving them platitudes, giving them generic responses is not what's going to get your fan base excited. So